very spacious, very big. There's lots of headroom and lots of space in the back as well.
Right. How about for long trips? What do you think? Does that work?
Yes.
And you like your rest, your armrest, yeah?
Yeah, there's an armrest.
That's a key component for you.
There's also a lot of storage in the back.
Yes, there is. What about the seats?
Well, I definitely enjoy the heated seats at the front.
Ah, the heated seats. Yeah, that's nice.
And there's 2 modes when you heat the seats.
Yes.
That's very nice.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I mean, and that makes complete sense because, of course, it consumes so much energy. I mean, in fact, we can see it here. We are heating the cabin, and it's taking loads of energy from the battery. Right? So that just doesn't work. In fact, just do that. Suddenly, that's going to be quite different in terms of consumption. Right, so the heated seat, fantastic, especially in the morning, you know, on the school run. Yeah, you like your heated seats, don't you?
Yes.
Okay.
Bluetooth.
Yes, the Bluetooth.
Very good Bluetooth.
Is it working fine?
It works fine.
Okay. You're always fiddling a little in terms of changing from one device to another.
That's because, well, it connects automatically if your device has been connected before and it was the last one to be connected.
Right.
And if not, you have to go to settings and change which one's on the phone and which one's like Bluetooth audio.
Right, okay. So that's good, that's another form of comfort. But what about suspension, right? Do you feel it's a bit harsh, a bit hard, or is it soft enough, you know, when there are bumps in the road?
I don't... Sorry. I think the bumps are fine, but I don't really pay attention to when there are bumps.
Right, so that's one of the annoyances, right, of the car.
Yes, beeping.
Beeping. Loads of beeping. Loads of beeping. Right, and also if I'm gonna do this. Alright, okay, we are stationary, so it's not starting the engine, but otherwise I think it would. Right, so although I'm in EV mode, you never know. Never know what's gonna happen there. So that's that. So I think one of the things that's pretty useful is Android Auto, right? It's working well in the main, though it does need to be connected, right, with a cable. It's not connected right now, but that will work really well. So we get Waze, we get Google Maps, a couple of other things as well, I guess. Right, so one of the things that's not ideal is that it's a very long car, right? The dimensions, I mean, for a city car, well, guess what? Not exactly new news, but you know, parking a car like that, I mean, good stuff that we have the rear camera, because it's pretty massive, frankly. And I'm not sure the turning circle is that great. But yeah, I mean, we make it work, but it's just probably too big for our needs. Yeah. So what next? The radio is really nothing special. It's not just nothing special. I mean, the menu is really from the 1980s probably. Yeah? So yeah, the menu is okay, the touchscreen is okay, but yeah, nothing amazing there. Now, if I look at the buttons and all of that, that's fairly well displayed. It's fairly clear what you're going to be using. I mean, there's a few annoyances, like if you want to switch on the little screen there, well, it's really hidden.
You also have a volume button on the steering wheel.
Yep. Yeah, that's quite good. That's quite good. I mean, I love to use the speed limiter on this one. I don't use the cruise control because it's not that great for the efficiency, and I just like to set the limit and just do whatever I want to do. Yeah.
Do what you gotta do.
Yeah, do what you gotta do. I know you were gonna mention the paddles. I play quite a bit with the paddles, I guess. From coasting, B0, all the way to full regen. It's convenient. It's good. Yeah, I mean this is just not efficient enough. The heating. All right, another beeping.
This is from opening the boot.
So what would you say? What would you say about charging? What's your experience of charging? Clearly, I've got my own, but what would you say about charging? Is it easy to charge? Is it easy to connect?
It depends.
Okay.
You see, sometimes it's hard to find some chargers,
Right.
and sometimes you have two chargers and there's two cars that are already charging, but there's places for 4 cars, and you can only charge one car on one charger.
Yes, that's true.
There are also some chargers where you cannot charge because it's not the type of cable that you need.
Yep, that's right. That's the difference between CHAdeMO and CCS, right? So that's the old connector on this car for the fast charging, or rapid charging, or whatever the terminology should be. But that's also true of the Type 1 versus Type 2. So actually both connectors are not the most common kind. That's a bit of a limitation really in the car. Yeah.
Sometimes you have to pay to charge, and it can be quite expensive.
Yeah. That's true, but equally I'm not too fussed about paying, even paying good money. Actually, I've shown it on different videos, but the reality is, in the round, you're anyway better off, right? So that's not really a matter of costs. I think that would be the wrong approach to think to cost. No. All right, there we go. Yeah, in the winter, there's not really any option if you don't want to have you have to use the AC, or at least the heating. One thing I would say is, if you need to accelerate a bit, that's plenty. It's absolutely fine. Alright, so we're getting onto the motorway now. So I'm going to put the limiter on, 50. There we go, done. And there's plenty of power, or plenty enough power for the motorway, and it's pretty quiet on the motorway. Yeah, there might be a bit more noise, maybe a bit more than you would have on some of the Audis and BMWs that you may have had in the past, but I think it's really good, very comfortable again, very comfy. Right, so I mean B0, I'm coasting, and I think for the motorway, in my experience, that would be the most efficient approach. Right? So what are the things we don't like then?
Well, the beeping.
The beeping?
That is annoying. It is very annoying.
The beeping. So beeping is number one, right? Okay. Anything else?
You can't really feel much of the heat at the back.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there might be a good reason for that though. They're a bit stingy on heating as well, right? So for instance here, let's see what happens. I'm gonna put a bit more of that and let's see whether it carries on. So for now it's still on battery. Now that's one of the great things about the car. At any point in time I will know whether I'm using the battery or the engine or a combination of both. It's pretty clever stuff, to be honest. It's quite well optimized. It does feel that there's no real point in trying to second guess and trying to play with all the buttons, charge and save and all of that. Obviously I try to use the EV mode most of the time, but you know there's no real need in trying to be too clever, because I don't think it makes that much of a difference, frankly. It's hard to prove the difference time and time again. Right, so we don't like the beeping. We don't like frankly, it's a large car. It's larger than we really need. So that's another thing. But it's hard to complain about that one, frankly. I think the main complaint, really, is that the battery capacity is a bit limited. So we're going to be doing 40 kilometers. So now I've done 5 miles. Okay, I've got the heating on, but yeah, 5 miles plus 27 kilometers, that's not quite 40. It's just not enough, really.
Oh, when you fold the seats at the back, there's the part of the seats that come out, and you put them in front of the actual seat, and so you can't put anything there anymore.
That's right. That's right. So I think that feels very old-fashioned again. The way the seats fold, it's a bit flimsy as well. Doesn't feel like that great quality. And overall, you know, people complain about these things as well. I think we don't really care. Frankly, that's just good enough. It's clearly not the best. And again, you won't compare it to the German cars or even, frankly, the French cars nowadays. But that's good enough. That's really not a problem in itself. Yeah. But I think that's a good shout. It's not that practical. I mean, you can't put the seats forward and backwards as some SUVs or you know, other kind of types of cars would do. So, yeah. Right. So in conclusion, right. So what have we got? So number one, fantastic, is the bit around it's a hybrid car that has, you know, some good enough range to do local commuting in EV mode only. That's really good, and that's the benefit and the drawback, frankly, which is it's so good you would want to have twice as much probably. Like if you had 80 kilometers, I think you'd be talking a completely different game. And frankly, there are not really many. There's probably 1 or 2 PHEVs at 80 kilometers of range, right? But anyway, the point number one is, you know, you can drive in electric and you can drive meaningfully, and you can do most of the local commuting, if not all of it, on electric. So that's fantastic. And that's also its main drawback, which is you'd love to have a lot more. I think the bings and bongs and the beeps is probably a bit of an annoyance, something we can live with, but nothing really amazing. There are a few other niggles with the things that start or don't start, etc. But again, nothing that wouldn't make the decision to buy the car the right decision. Yeah, I think the best part really is the efficiency, and it's all about the drivetrain. It's all about this kind of combination of petrol and electricity that works really well. And I think is pretty clever, and you can see that they've put the efforts and the money, frankly, towards the actual driving of the car, and I think that's pretty impressive. And therefore, the rest is more like an entry level, an affordable car, and nothing very fancy going on here, nothing too fancy going on here. It's just kind of good enough or thereabouts okay, right? But again, I don't think that's a problem for us. Yeah. So yeah, overall, good car, but not an EV, and that's the conclusion.